Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute wildest, most improbable 50-year legacy in pop music history. We're talking about a man who pulled off the ultimate chart upset and went on to build this incredible, enduring bond with millions of fans across the globe. We're going to trace how a quiet, struggling singer completely reinvented himself to become a global icon, affectionately known to us all as the King of Romance. So, picture this. It's early 1967, and the Beatles are on an absolute tear. They've had an unstoppable 11-song #1 streak in the UK. They were at the absolute peak of their cultural power, you know? Their chart dominance felt less like a statistic and honestly more like a law of nature. Everyone just completely assumed their next release would make it 12 in a row. But then, a completely unexpected twist of fate happened that practically shook the entire music industry. It's the ultimate David and Goliath setup. In one corner, you've got the biggest band in the world dropping Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields forever. I mean, producer George Martin literally considered these the best tracks they'd ever made. And in the other corner, an obscure 1946 country track performed by a little-known singer named Engelbert Humperdinck. Now, Engelbert was just asked to step in for an ill performer named Dickie Valentine on a hugely popular Sunday night TV variety show at the London Palladium. And the crazy part, the song he performed, Release Me, had actually just been sitting on a shelf for months. Well, the sheer scale of the public's reaction was unprecedented. That single TV performance of Release Me was seen by millions, and the very next day, orders for 80,000 copies just poured in. At its peak, the single drove a staggering 127,000 record sales in a single day. That is just wild. It shot straight to #1, keeping the Beatles' double-A side locked at #2 for weeks. Release Me went on to become the highest-selling single of 1967 in the UK, moving over 1 million copies, and cementing Engelbert's chart dominance by staying in the top 50 for an incredible 56 consecutive weeks. Now, you might be wondering, how did the biggest band in the world handle being dethroned? Surprisingly, with total grace. When Engelbert later crossed paths with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, there were absolutely no hard feelings. McCartney recognized that Engelbert's romantic, traditional balladeering was operating in this entirely different but equally powerful musical universe than their psychedelic rock. Sure, John Lennon was famously a bit less thrilled about it, but Paul and Ringo understood there was room for all kinds of magic on the charts. All right, part 1, Arnold Dorgie's reinvention, from pubs to the Palladium. Before all the fame and the records, he was actually born Arnold George Dorsey, just a shy kid from Leicester who picked up the saxophone at age 11. By 17, he was gigging at local pubs and singing, even dropping a single in 1959. But then, a massive setback. He contracted tuberculosis, which completely silenced his voice for 6 months and nearly ended his career right there. But after he recovered, his old friend and music manager, Gordon Mills, who, by the way, also managed Tom Jones, orchestrated this absolute genius rebranding. He gave Arnold the name of a 19th century German opera composer. Suddenly, Arnold Dorsey became Engelbert Humperdinck. Moving on to part 2, evolution of a performer, the blueprint of a star. So, how exactly do you build a superstar? Well, for Engelbert, it was a very deliberate step-by-step evolution. First, the image. He pioneered his signature thick sideburns, actually going against his manager's initial advice, creating a totally distinct visual trademark. Second, the stagecraft. He figured out how to leave his personal, off-stage self behind and entirely transform into the artist the second he hit the spotlight. And third, the connection. Using his massive 3.5-octave range, he found he could belt out these operatic notes, but also pull way back for tender, intimate moments. That dynamic range forged a deep, deep emotional bond with his fans. His stage presence became so magnetic and so carefully calculated that it actually caught the attention of true rock royalty. Get this. During a 1967 UK package tour, guitar pioneer Jimi Hendrix would literally stand in the wings during Engelbert's set. He was studying his act, figuring out his stagecraft, and learning how to just completely command a massive crowd. And amazingly, Hendrix even filled in on guitar for him once when Engelbert's regular guitarist didn't show up. No way, right? Part 3, Legends, Vegas, and Elvis, the peak of superstardom. Once the UK was thoroughly conquered, Engelbert set his sights on America and quickly secured a residency at the Riviera Hotel in Vegas. But what makes this a real game changer is who backed him. It was none other than part owner Dean Martin. Martin actually put his own name right up on the marquee. Dean Martin presents Engelbert Humperdinck. That was an unprecedented cosign that instantly established him as a heavyweight in the entertainment capital of the world. I mean, imagine seeing your name in those dazzling lights and feeling a lifelong dream finally come true. During this era, he also formed a very close personal friendship with Elvis Presley. When they first met, Elvis didn't just shake his hand. He warmly embraced him. Elvis even mentioned later that Engelbert reminded him of the twin brother he lost at birth. And as for those iconic sideburns, well, Engelbert playfully but totally truthfully points out that he had them first. He claims Elvis, the Beatles, and Glenn Campbell all admittedly borrowed that pioneering look right from him. And that brings us to part 4, the King of Romance, a 50-year love affair. The commercial numbers backing up his title as the King of Romance are just absolutely staggering. We are talking over 140 million records sold worldwide. To put that into perspective, that surpasses modern giants like Adele, Justin Bieber, and Lady Gaga. It really just perfectly illustrates the timeless power of his romantic ballads and his incredible, enduring connection with listeners everywhere. Looking at his time with Decca Records, it yielded this amazing string of massive global hits that basically provided the soundtrack for an entire generation's romances. Following Release Me, songs like The Last Waltz shot straight to #1 in the UK, and A Man Without Love peaked right at #2. These absolutely weren't just flashes in the pan. They established a whole era of easy listening dominance. And beyond those huge single sales, he racked up an unbelievable 64 gold albums and 23 platinum albums. Throw in 4 Grammy nominations, a Golden Globe for Entertainer of the Year, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And through all of this massive success, he stayed a total perfectionist. He was so involved in the details of his craft that he even designed his own custom stage clothing with wire collars, just to make sure the venue spotlights would hit his face perfectly. Talk about dedication. So meet Trace's milestones, from that explosive debut in 1967 to his Vegas breakthrough in '68, all the way up to representing the UK at Eurovision in 2012 and doing a massive world tour for his 50th anniversary in 2017. That 2017 celebration even featured a special Decca compilation album with new songs beautifully dedicated to his wife of 50 years, Patricia. It just shows a performer who is as vibrant, relevant, and deeply connected to his fan base today as he was on day one. As we wrap up this explainer, looking at a legacy built on a unique voice, raw emotion, and an unbreakable work ethic, it really leaves us wondering. In a world where we meticulously plan out our success, how often does true greatness actually begin with just a simple, unexpected twist of fate? Thank you for exploring the legendary journey of Engelbert Humperdinck with me. Keep learning, keep listening, and hey, keep your eyes open for those sudden opportunities.